Hey guys, as a full-time Lyft and Uber driver, and because of the new case of the Proposition 22 and the case to classify drivers as employees rather than independent contractors, I thought I'll just share my perspective as a Uber and Lyft driver. And I also worked for other companies like DoorDash and Postmates and Grubhub. Thinking about this now that I don't work full time anymore, it's because I did try working full time, but it was unsustainable to work for full time either for Uber and Lyft, because there are times in which you do, like on a good day, I am making up to $25 an hour, and that is not excluding the gas and everything. And those are the good days, but there are other days in which, let's say, I'm not getting any ride, I'm practically making $0. But on average, I've noticed that the times that I do drive, I make $15 an hour. I did work for Grubhub in the year, around 2 years ago in the summer. They did have a minimum wage guarantee, which is even if you don't get any deliveries, you still make $15 an hour. And I remember around that time, after 2 or 3 months, they went back on that. They are now we are going to pay our drivers $11.50. It was 2 to 3 months, because now they are schools are opening up, there'll be more opportunities. And I remember, and then I was to hell with this, $11.50 along with paying for my own gas and the depreciation of the car. And finally, I remember getting an email. I had stopped working for them, saying that, and it was titled as more opportunities to earn, and it said that they have taken that entirely away, which means that if you don't get a delivery, you're going to make $0. And so I was I can't work for these companies, and that's what the reason I switched to Uber and Lyft. Now Uber and Lyft, as I said, was paying $15 an hour, on average on good days, but there were also times in which I would be just waiting and not receiving any rides. On top of that, there were times I would get a ride and I have to drive 15 minutes away just to pick the passenger and drop them off 5 to 7 minutes away. Now, to drive 15 minutes away, that is obviously I don't get paid for that. I only get paid for the time I pick the passenger and I drop him or her off 7 minutes away. And around 7 minutes away, that rides are typically, when it comes to Uber and Lyft, it's between $3 to $4. I know that they charge passengers up to $7 to $8, which is I don't know what they're doing with that extra money. It's it would be nice to have at least $5 guarantee per ride, but that's not how it works. And there are other times in which I would drive all the way and the passenger would just cancel, and I would not get paid for the ride at all. So I'm driving to 18 minutes away just to pick this passenger up, and he or she cancels it, and I am just stuck there with no rides, and I just spend all this money driving, and I didn't make any money. And so then they started with, I know there's the ride cancellation fee, but the way the ride cancellation works is Lyft started doing something very sneaky, that they started swapping drives or swiping. I don't know the exact term, but so what they would do is you're driving to this passenger, and then they would swipe the ride with some other passenger, and basically that's when the 10 minutes or the 5 minutes wait starts. And this happened to me more than one time. I drove 18 minutes away and the passenger canceled, and I did not get paid anything. And I reached out to Lyft. I'm why didn't I get paid? I drove 18 minutes away. I also waited for the passenger, and then they canceled. They are oh, actually your ride was swiped with someone else, and typically so basically I didn't get paid. So that was frustrating. Finally I did but the good part was I obviously had a full-time job. I work for Amazon as a delivery driver, which works good for me with my school schedule and everything. Now, recently, obviously, because of the case, they are being forced to classify their drivers as employees, and they are fighting back on that, which I don't understand, because only a full-time employee can be classified as is eligible for healthcare benefits, and we all know that especially in the city of San Diego. A lot of employers, they don't hire you for 40 hours, they hire you for less than 30 hours so that they don't have to pay these benefits. All they have to pay is you a minimum wage. And but they are fighting back on that. And there was also I think someone from Seattle, politician, she or he recommended that minimum wage guarantee of $16, and Lyft and Uber are fighting back on that as well, which is very interesting. It's like they don't actually have the interest of drivers in their mind, which is true. I've noticed that firsthand. And then they proposed the ballot 22 measure, which is basically saying that let things be just the way they are. But they also included something like in when they want to, because they send out multiple emails and text messages to me to save my independence, is what they called it, like as the title subject, which is funny. So it said something like minimum wage guarantee and also up to $300 per month in healthcare benefits or something, and fourth was third good thing was get your independence in the ballot 22 measure. And the thing was, they did mention the minimum wage, but like how much is the minimum wage? So they left that out, and I think that was purposeful, like so that they don't have to, like they can just say, oh, minimum wage guarantee for us was like the was the nation's minimum wage, which is $8, and in the city of San Diego, $8 just does not make sense. And so they obviously don't have. And then they started this new campaign, like they are like, we are going to leave the state of California until like November, when voters decide on Proposition 22. And I think it will obviously force voters, because a lot of people won't be able to ride in case Uber and Lyft move out until November, and then people would have more of a reason to pass this. And I think that is very, very, the right term would be deceptive and evil, like to drive a wedge between the employees and the consumers, so that they can have their way. And this has happened before in the state of Texas. Like look up for Texas, like lawsuits against Uber. And so they moved out, and like they came back in until like people decided to like do essentially what these companies want. And I mean, for a driver like me that works part-time, and the reason I work part-time is, as I said, was because it was not sustainable. I need to pay my fees, I need to pay my rent, and you can't do that by working this app. But it's still like sad for those that are working full-time. It's also very sneaky. Like a lot of riders, they don't realize that sometimes you have to put up with a lot. Like you don't get all good riders. Like there are riders that have been wonderful to me. Like we've had the most amazing conversations. I remember this guy that was working for the San Diego Zoo, and he tipped me like $30. And we were talking all the way, and he's like, I like your attitude. But then there are other riders that are like, for lack of actually not lack, but that are pieces of shit sometimes to me. Like they think that they own this car, and they are like disrespectful. Like they say things like, oh, can you like, or they are drunk at times, and they are like, hey, can you please slow down, when I'm like at 40 miles an hour at a 50 mile per hour road. And I'm like, you are either high or drunk, but I can't say that because they are sitting behind me. They basically can strangle me if they want to, which is like, I'm like helpless. And at times it's also like, when a passenger asks you for a thing, it's not exactly like asking. It's more of like, because you're in a position of power about me, you're the one paying for this ride. I'm like working this as a full-time or a part-time job. And so it's obviously sometimes, not always, demanding in that respect. Like you have to put up with a lot, and your car eventually dies down. And I also, like when I file my taxes, my tax, because I have to file tax, I don't get it because like there's so many things in Uber and Lyft, so you're not exactly able to do it yourself, at least for me. And my the person that does my taxes, she tells me every time that that Uber and Lyft are actually putting it all on you. Like, I'm paying entirely for those taxes. I exactly don't know how it is, but it seems like they're pushing all the expenses on me when it comes to the taxes. And it's really shitty in that way. I mean, we all know that these companies are not ethical, and business is important, like, but like not over your own employees and like ethics. So I don't know. I think it will provide incentive for Uber and Lyft to leave until November, so that they can force their riders to vote for Proposition 22, which is obviously funded by these companies. They've like put in millions and millions of dollars in this ballot measure, and so I think things are going to stay as it is. Even during this pandemic, it is down, like the business is down for these companies. I know that Lyft was providing like up to $400 per week. Like they did this for 2 weeks. If you give more than 75 to 80 rides per week, like, so $400 bonus. And I obviously did that because a bonus is a good thing. But as soon as like that employment benefits ended, they stopped doing that. It's like it's like, so you actually can afford to give us this extra money, but you keep it for yourself. And so it's definitely not a good thing for the drivers. It's sad that obviously voters will vote for this, but it will be interesting to see how it goes. I think they have incentive to move out until November, like, because even the rides are down due to the pandemic. Let's see how it works out. But this was me sharing my perspective, guys, and like as a Uber and Lyft driver, and like companies like Grubhub, obviously they're not facing this issue, but I think over time they should like face this issue too. They're doing the same thing with their drivers, but I'm hopeful in the voters, and we'll see how this works out. Well, have a good day, guys. Thank you for letting me talk and sharing my perspective.